Have you ever returned to something familiar and discovered something completely new? It's a strange, almost magical experience. The words are the same, the characters unchanged, the ending predictable, and yet it moves you in a way it never has before. That's the quiet gift of reading the same book year after year. Not because you forget the story, but because you're watching the story with new eyes. I started this ritual almost by accident. 10 years ago, during a very difficult winter, I picked up a book I hadn't read since college. I thought it would be a pleasant distraction. Instead, it became a mirror, and I've read it every year since. Today, I want to share why that small decision became one of the most meaningful practices of my life. And maybe, just maybe, it might become part of yours too. One book stay the same. We don't. That's the point. When we're young, we read books for plot. What happens next? Who wins? What's the twist? But as we age, something subtle shifts. We stop looking for what happens and start wondering why. Why did that character stay? Why did they walk away? Why does this hurt now when it didn't before? Take my friend Harold. He's 67, a retired dentist who started rereading The Great Gatsby every spring. At first, it reminded him of youth, parties, ambition. But last year, after a health scare, he told me, it's no longer a book about dreams. It's about time. About what slips away while we're not looking. Isn't that something? The same book, but each reading speaks to a different version of us. We grow older. Our memories deepen. Our regrets sharpen. And suddenly, a sentence we skimmed over becomes the one that breaks us open. That's the quiet genius of rereading. It reveals how much we've changed. 2. Rereading is a form of emotional anchoring in an unstable world. As the world around us spins faster, news, technology, change, it's easy to feel unmoored. We crave something solid, predictable, gentle. That's where rereading comes in. Not to escape the world, but to return to a piece of ourselves we may have forgotten. It's a bit like visiting an old friend. You know their stories. You know how they laugh. But still, you sit with them again. Because it grounds you. Susan, a retired nurse from Brisbane, reads End of Green Gables every autumn. She says, it's not the story I go back for. It's who I become when I read it. For her, it's a place of simplicity, of open skies and quiet kindness. In her words, it calms the parts of me the world forgets to care for. That's what rereading does. It brings us home. 3. Memory isn't just about the story. It's about where you were when you read it. Each time we return to a book, we're not just reading the words again. We're revisiting the version of ourselves who read it last. And there's something beautifully haunting about that. When I open my old copy of The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, I find folded corners, tiny pencil marks, the smell of old pages. But more than that, I find memories. One year, I read it on a rainy Tuesday in a hospital waiting room. Another, by the fire after a long conversation with my father. Another, during a lonely Christmas. The words haven't changed, but I have. Books become time capsules. They hold who we were and let us meet ourselves again. And in doing so, they heal. For the wisdom we need is often what we've already been given. We live in a world that tells us to always be seeking the new knowledge, new advice, new books, new tools. But what if the truth we're looking for has already been spoken? We just weren't ready to hear it. That's what happened to Irene, a 64-year-old librarian in Wales. She read A Man Called 05 years ago and liked it. Last year, after her husband passed, she read it again. This time, she wept through every page. I finally understood his grief, she said. I finally understood mine. We often think wisdom is out there, somewhere, but often it's already within reach. We just need to return to it when we're ready to receive it. 5. Rituals like this offer sacred structure as we age. One of the most underappreciated gifts of aging is rhythm. We begin to value ritual, repetition, reflection. Rereading the same book each year becomes more than a habit. It becomes a ceremony, a moment carved out for stillness, a quiet check-in with the soul. John, a retired Army veteran in Ohio, reads The Art of War every New Year's Day, not for strategy, but for the philosophy of discipline and calm. It reminds me of who I want to be in the year ahead, he said. This is not about nostalgia. It's about orientation. Like a compass we return to, not to stay in place, but to know where we're headed. 6. Sometimes, a book gives us the language we don't yet have. There are moments in life when we feel something so deeply, but we can't quite name it. Loneliness, grief, unfinished forgiveness, aching joy. And then we read a sentence, a paragraph, a line, and suddenly, that's it. That's what I've been trying to say. Books don't fix us, but they give shape to what's been shapeless inside us. It's why I read the same book, because one year, it helps me grieve. Another, it helps me forgive. Another, it reminds me to hope. We don't need new words every time. Sometimes, we just need to hear the old ones differently. 7. Reading something again is an act of self-compassion. Let me say this clearly. You are allowed to return to what comforts you. You are allowed to reread the same book, to sit with the same story, to not move on. There's a quiet rebellion in choosing stillness in a world obsessed with moving forward. It's not laziness. It's wisdom. And every time I return to that same book, I'm not chasing something new. I'm reminding myself, I don't have to become someone else to be worthy of love, peace, or rest. I just need to remember who I already am. So, why do I read the same book every year? Because the world changes. Because I change. Because sometimes, the deepest truths are whispered in old words. And I want to hear them again. What about you? Is there a story that's walked beside you in life? A book you return to, not for answers, but for connection? I'd love to hear about it. Truly. Drop it in the comments. Share the story behind your story. And if this resonated with you, please like the video. Subscribe for more gentle, thoughtful reflections like this one. And pass it on to someone who might need a reminder that they're allowed to slow down and return. Because sometimes turning back to the same page is exactly how we move forward.